think of me as a tour guide through the Museum of Dream Amulets. So I'm Patricia, I'll be your tour guide. We're going to go for a whirlwind spin through many centuries. Did you ever look for the first star at night? Yeah. My father taught me when we were sitting, Marcia, on the porch in Glenside, on Harrison Avenue, on the front porch, on rockers, and he said, "This is Orion. He's the great hunter," you know, and you can always tell him by the 3 stars on his belt. And he, made it very clear to me. Thought that was sort of interesting, but there were fireflies coming out, and I wanted to go catch them and put them in the jar with the holes poked on top, and have my own magic lantern. But Mother came out from doing the dishes, and I showed her where the first star is, and here's a diagram of Orion, and down here in the corner is a very bright star called Sirius. Okay, well, Sirius and Orion turn out to be very, very important in ancient Egypt. And I'm sure my father didn't know this when he was teaching me where to find Orion. But anyway, my mother said, do you know, she knew all the nursery rhymes. I mean, by heart. I could spout them for hours. They're so imprinted into my brain, and folk tales and fairy tales. And she said, starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. I wish I may, I wish I might have the wish I wish tonight. Okay, very good. In ancient Egypt, Orion was identified with Osiris. Okay, and he was the great hunter, striding through the night sky. And Sirius was identified with Isis. And when Sirius arose, that was the time that the Nile was going to flood. And it was going to make everything fertile. She was the great fertility goddess. And so it was really important to keep your eyes on these stars. And as it turns out, there's so many amazing things. Anyway, the sky gods and the earth gods. This is where our deities came from. Not only up there in the sky, the planets, the sun, the moon, but also special rocks. These are ones from Cornwall, and stones that had openings in them, hold stones, were very often considered holy. And this is another one in Cornwall. Anything sort of lingam and yoni about this one. Of course, if you crawled through them, you would have a baby, or you would get cured, or some other thing that you wish to have happen. Sometimes the hold stones were in running water. Okay, so it was a challenge to crawl through it. You could also drown while you were doing this, but if you succeeded, oh, what luck you would have. And this is the first from my collection that is a natural stone, a natural hold stone, a small stone. What could be better? I mean, it's a portable deity. It's not this big thing. You can carry it around in your pocket. And what's so special about a stone with a natural hole? This one I found on the beach in Carmel, And I was looking specifically for such a stone, which they have called dream stones and witch stones and hag stones and various other names. But they hold power. And you notice it's a triangular shape, which is the basic feminine shape from ancient times. So you've got the, in effect, you've got the great goddess in your pocket here. Handy. And I want to call your attention to the two main characteristics. There's the solid rock, nothing can pass through. And there is the opening. And that's considered a portal to the other world, okay, to the spirit world. And it should be hung with red, a red ribbon, a red cord, and you can wear it, sorry, you can wear it on your neck, except don't gesture like that when you're doing it. And you can hang it outside of your horse's stall, you know, or your oxen, to keep them from being ridden, hag-ridden at night. Owners would go and find their horse all sweaty, and the horse had been dreaming, but, and probably a bad dream because they were distressed. So the owners were trying to safeguard their beasts as well as themselves. But people hung them on their bedpost when beds developed. Dream amulets to work are supposed to be close to the head, okay, so they can get absorbed. And this is a picture of a drawing of the west bank of the Nile River. And it actually looks like this. And in between that low dip, that's where the sun sets. And they decided that these mountains on either side looked sort of like two lions back to back. They called them the Acker lions. And the one on the left was the lion of yesterday. And the one on the right was the lion of tomorrow. And in between, where the sun went down, is now. And that's your life, this moment. Okay? The ancient Egyptians buried the dead on the west bank. They could be guarded by the sacred mountains. You see? Okay, this shape is really important in the tracing of the lineage of the dream amulets. This is the hieroglyph for horizon or boundary. And notice, okay, you've got the two sacred mountains on the side and the sun setting in the middle. The scarab was identified with the sun god for various complicated reasons. And there's a whole story I could tell you about this, but considering our time, I won't. On the top, this is a typical headrest for a noble or a pharaoh that is carved in the shape of the hieroglyph for horizon. You see the two high sides and the dip in the middle and the lions protecting. This is your head becomes the sun. And when you put your neck rested on the headrest, you are setting. You're going into the dream world. You're going into the dark. You are the sun god being swallowed by the mother night and passing through her dark body and emerging in the morning where babies emerge and newborn. Temple pylons. This is a typical kind of temple. This is replicating the sacred mountains with a lower space in between. And some scholars even think that the pyramid complex at Giza with the Great Sphinx is the same thing. The Great Sphinx is facing east in this case. But there are three pyramids, and guess what? They line up with the stars in Orion's belt. I mean, it's just amazing the amount of knowledge that was contained here. These are some typical amulets in ancient Egypt. And the one on the left, you're probably familiar with, the Ankh, which is the symbol for life. The next one, I don't know how you pronounce it, Djed or something, but it is the spine of Osiris, the god of the dead. It's his backbone. So it means strength. And then we've got a symbol for beauty. I don't know what that is. I think it's a musical instrument. The symbol for joy, and then the symbol for protection. All of those appear on this amulet necklace.
Wow.
Okay? So, hey, who would not like to be beautiful, joyful, happy, protected, all of these things, and long life? It has the additional symbols of fish. Fish will keep you from drowning. If you carry an amulet of a fish, you will be, and put a fish amulet on your child, you will be safe from drowning. It looks like a shell. It's a cowrie shell. And in many, many primitive tribes or ancient cultures, the cowrie shell is another female symbol, the symbol of the vagina, the genitals. These are all actively used amulets from ancient Egypt. Different colors, different materials, different meanings, but they all serve to protect the person who's carrying it, who's wearing it. Here is a picture from in my house that is, you can see the tops of some of my dream journals along the very bottom. And then there's a batch of the books I've written in English, and the books that I've written that have been translated on the next shelf. And several of these amulets, believe me, it's not all. I have a lot more. But you can see some important ones there up in the left corner of Hypnos, the god of dreams, that we'll talk more about. A mirror of Isis on the top right, and several really interesting ones in the middle that we'll look at in a little more detail. A closer shot. These are treasure ships, Asian treasure ships on the right, and the 7 lucky gods, an African dream doll. This is a talisman painting that Sultan Murad III ordered made for his daughter Fatima in 1582 because she was having nightmares. And this sort of genie, can you see the child sleeping at across the bottom? This sort of blue, black, horrible thing is flowing into her head, giving her nightmares. But by having a picture of it commissioned for her, it safeguarded her, because certain groups of people believe that like getting your picture taken steals your soul. It's that kind of idea. If you draw it, if you write it, it's spellbinding, And so now the djinn of nightmares can no longer hurt her. All right, so here's my proposal. It may be very far-fetched, but I suggest that that dream stone, the triangular stone with a natural hole in it, is our basic amulet, sort of the stone, if you will, the original form. And from that developed 4 archetypes that I'll now describe to you. The first is the most common. That is something that will defend you from its strength, and it has natural weapons. It has horns, or it has fangs, or it has talons. It's equipped to hurt you. And sometimes it has weapons that are extensions of the arm and the hand, and everything from axes to garrots. It's going to get you. So you got to defend yourself. You got to protect yourself from the evil eye. There was great, great fear of the evil eye. This little character is a dwarf. in ancient Egypt, his name is Bes, and he is powerful, mighty, mighty powerful. He's a funny-looking guy, and he sometimes has bushy hair. This symbol plaque pin in the middle of his solar plexus is of a lion. Shows you he may be small, but he has the strength of a lion. He's often wearing a lion's skin, and you see those little wavy lines going through the lion? They are live snakes. He's as strong as Hercules, you know, he can strangle snakes. You know, no worry, if you got a Bes around you, you're going to be safe. And here he is in situ, in his courtyard of the temple of Hathor, who was a great fertility goddess in ancient Egypt, the one who had cow horns. We'll see her in a minute. But you see, he's not very attractive looking, but he's funny. Frequently you see his genitals. He can also bring you erotic dreams, which might or may not be handy. He has these big bulgy eyes and often a tongue that's protruding. What does that say? Better to eat you with. I'm going to get you, sort of thing. Scare. Sometimes the moms made on the left palm of the child, when it was about to go to sleep, drew a henna stencil of Bes on their left palm, wrapped it in a dark cloth, and said some particular blessing. And this was, Bes would be in your hand and keep out the nightmares from your dreams. Bes also made babies laugh, and he came with a rattle. He often had a musical instrument, a sistrum or a rattle in his hands, and when a baby or a little child smiled for no reason, they said, oh, Bes was tickling him, you know, or Bes was making a funny face. He was specifically the protector of women and children, and those are plumes on top of his head because he was the patron of music and dance. And when he danced, his plumes wobbled all over and made people happy. You also had portable Beses. This is a headrest, which you now recognize, the low curve, the high sides. And this belonged to a pharaoh, and he carried it when he was out hunting. So this design on the edge is the face of Bes. You know, he doesn't want to have any bad dreams. Well, he's resting. They made medicine bottles in his shape because the medicine would absorb Bes's strength and help you. He was very much loved by the Romans, who adopted him and put him on their shields